All right, guys, this is EWAR 101, my first time teaching this class. Um, this is Jinx. I'm the co-director of the Brave Dojo. Again, I'm not incredible at Eve, but I like to teach new bros and help out. So I'm not going to know everything that you ask, but I know the basics on flying EWAR, why we want you in EWAR, why that's a good way to get in fleet and get started, even from just the first couple days. So in Fleet, you'll see that I linked some Eve University slides because I'm a dirty thief, and why make slides or anything else when someone's already done it for me? So this is the intro to EWAR. As you can see, they call it salt mining because some people really, really hate EWAR. I relinked it in Fleet. There's rules. We're going to skip rules because this is Brave and we have no rules. Please ask questions if you need it. We're docked up right now, but we're going to go out and shoot each other with EWAR and see what happens to them after this. So quick overview. We're just going to go over the different kinds of EWAR and where you want to use the different kinds of EWAR and where in the fleet you're most effective. So what is EWAR? It's non-damage support. So there's the main DPS. So when you see a fleet pinged, it might be Talwars, it might be Jackdaws, Ferox, Hurricane, and that is the main DPS damage, though. And so even though you don't have that ship, the EWAR, if you can't fly those, EWAR is always welcome. I think the only time it's not really welcome is on a bomber fleet because you don't have the Cove Ops, you can't cloak. So as Davidson says, it does damage. It damages their soul because it degrades them. It makes them not able to apply as effectively, or with target painting, it actually makes them die faster. ECM, it makes them lose all their targets, and it's a force multiplier. People hate it, and it's a great way for new bros to be involved. At one time, Brave would have entire fleets of EWAR that would just go and make everybody mad at us. So we want to see big, healthy EWAR wings with any fleet that we're taking. I'm now on slide 5. So ECM, if you pull up your Griffin now, I should have given everybody a Griffin. So I'm going to pull it up in game as well. Go ahead and simulate the ship. So we have this in front of us, and you can see that there are multicolored jams on there. These are in the mid slots. I'm pointing to them here on the video. There's blue, red, sort of green. I don't know, it's light blue, and gold. So back to the slides. So the ECM, if it succeeds, it's kind of an RNG thing, but it disables all targeting systems on the victim. So you actually have to one to be successful for them to be jammed, and it's your ECM skill versus their sensor strength. So if you don't want to get jammed, you want to train your sensor compensation skills, which the dojo has as well. The way to remember what is most effective against different races is to look at the colors. So gold jams or yellow jams are the radar, and that's versus Amar. And the red jams are versus Mimitar. The blue jams, gravimetrics versus Caldari. And teal jams, as Faye said, is versus Galente. The multispectral is an average chance versus all, but in PvP, that's not really used as much. So if you were going to pick targets, and if you don't know all the ship names at first, that's perfectly okay. One thing you can do is you can look at the background color on different ships. So like if you look at a Cormorant or a Vexer or Stabber that I'm linking in Fleet here, or Coercer, so you can always show info on somebody's ship and you can see the background color there. And so like on the Stabber, we know It's got a red background color. That means it's Minmatar. It also is all covered in rust. That's another way you know. And so the red jam, the enfeebling scope radar ECM that's on our Dojo handout is it would be the most effective.
It's also visible in the targeting reticle. So once you target something, you can see it in the corner, the small circle, the background color.
Oh yes, and so even though it's the most effective jam, any jam can work on a different race. It just has less of a chance. So if there's only one target, or there's just one person you really want to jam out, you can put all four on them, even if it's not the optimal color. Sometimes if we have advanced knowledge of what we're going to go fight, like Loki's a really popular T3C right now, Tech 3 cruiser, and they're really hard to fight, but you can put all red jams in your mid slots and then jam them out. You'll have much more chance to succeed to jam them out. We also use the Griffins to kill NPC dreads, and you'll hear that I need a Griffin with 4 gold jams. So the dreads in Catch are Sancha, and so that's a Mar, and you can put 4 gold jams, and that's how we can keep the dread jammed out. That's not PvP, so not the major focus to this. Does anyone have any questions on ECM? PvPers and roamers and Twitch streamers hate ECM. So if there's anyone out looking for good fights in GE and you just want them to go away, you can pull out a bunch of Griffins and jam them. And if you're watching their stream, they'll rage about it. So it's probably it's very effective, and some people would like it removed from the game and things like that. But it's a good way. There's also ECM drones that are in a lot of doctrine fittings. So if you're ever tackled and need to get away, you can release the ECM drones, and they have a chance to unlock all the targets, and then you get a chance to get away as well. Okay, now we're going to look at weapon disruption. So everybody, if you've got your crucifier, you can go ahead and get your crucifier up. Haha, and I don't have more skill on this character, so I will just. Can I simulate it without that? Yes, I can. I can look at the fitting whip mode. There we go. Okay, so if you've got your crucifier up, or if you can't fly it, you can just search for it in the fitting window like I did here. So the thing that we have here is we have tracking disruption. So tracking disruptors, they can use 2 different kinds of scripts. Well, I guess there's actually 2 different kinds of modules, and they can use scripts as well, which make them more effective. So here on the crucifier that we've handed out, has 2 tracking disruptors. So one really nice thing about these, and actually all EWARs, they have really long range. So when we're flying around, you're going to see that you want to stay at your optimals, which if you hover over the module, you can see what your optimal is. So you always want to try to stay at your extreme optimal, but you can see with no scripts installed, we get 17% fall off, 17% optimal range, negative 17%, both of these, and negative 17% tracking speed. So it's going to make them not be able to shoot as far. And most of EVE combat right now is based on projecting damage from as far a range as you can. So basically, if you use this tracking disruptor on somebody in a Ferox or in a tower or whatever, they are not going to be able to get to the optimal range that they need to really participate in the fight, because almost everything's done at extreme ranges. You can see in the cargo bay here we have the optimal range disruption script, and so that would further enhance the fall off bonus and the optimal range bonus. So it actually removes the tracking speed the negative 17% tracking speed, but it increases the other ones by 18%. If you put the tracking speed bonus one in, then that one does a negative 35% tracking speed. Davidson, I'm forgetting which is tracking speed best against. Is that used against
Turrets, you mean?
yeah, turrets?
Oh, yeah.
So you wouldn't want to use the tracking speed against missiles, but
Missiles are unaffected completely by it, yeah.
yeah. So if they're using something like Ferox's, that tracking speed could be good. But again, if they're fighting extreme range, the range one is good. You can ask the FC, the fleet commander, what he prefers. If it's in the middle of the fight, he might not be able to answer right away. So next we're going to look at a remote sensor dampening. This is the Mollis. So the Mollis is really popular to fly. A lot of people have Galente just so they can skill into vectors and things. So the Mollis is one of the first things that they're able to fly. So here you've got the phase moon scoped sensor dampener, and again it has a without scripts it does a minus 16% to scan resolution and to maximum targeting range. Your skills might affect that. And then we also have scan resolution dampening scripts and targeting range dampening scripts. So again, focusing dampening on either shortening their targeting range or making it a scan resolution makes it easier, or sorry, if your scan resolution is damped, takes longer for someone to get locked. So scan resolution is really good for when you're trying to, if it's a long battle, then they're gonna have time to lock anyway. But but you can like put it on logistics so that when the fleet they're trying to heal somebody in the fleet, it takes longer for them to lock. Or you can use it in more small fleet combat where you can just keep them out of the fight for just a few moments longer. Again, the targeting range is like really good, like tower fleets, or almost any fleet, just because if you're brawling, which means if you're warping at 0 and fighting at really close range, then dampening their targeting range is not really that important. But because so much of combat right now is focused on being an extreme range, when you hear the word kitey bullshit, if you damp them, then that takes away their primary advantage that they can shoot from far away. No, scan resolution, this is dampening. This is making it harder for them to lock. It takes longer to lock. If you have high scan resolution, then you can lock faster. The next one is target painting. So this is your vigil. So the vigil is really good for fleets because it's actually again, I don't have Mimitar skills, so I'll look it up here. So target painting, that does what you think. It makes it easier. It increases the signature radius, which makes it faster lock speeds for us. So you can it makes it faster to lock the enemy, so we can kill them. I think it also helps with application.
Yep, it does.
Again, this has a targeting range script and scan resolution script. So if we put the scan resolution, can I not put that in there? You can see how often I fly the vigil. So somebody
The vigil, that's only a target painter, right? You can't put scripts in there.
Why are the scripts in the cargo bay then? Dojo learned something today.
So the sensor booster apparently.
Oh, okay, there we go. Okay, so the sensor booster, this helps you. The sensor booster helps you have more range or lock people faster. So the one difference with the vigil, and we'll talk about this more about picking targets, but the vigil, it follows the primaries of the FC. So on the other ones, on other EWAR, if you just stamp out the primary target that's called, they're going to die. Hopefully, they'll die pretty quick, and it's not as important. Whereas in the vigil, you are helping kill the primary target. So uh, you really only need a few vigils in fleet where you could spread out how many target paints you've got. If you might get asked to change if you don't need a fleet full of them, but they really help the fleet kill things faster.
It's coming from the two sides of EWAR. One side is either increasing the effectiveness of your allied ships or decreasing the DPS and effectiveness of the enemy ships. So if something is about to die, then you don't need to make it weak.
I'm on slide 9 if you're following along on the slides. So the skills related to EWAR, the Magic 14 are always important. Getting the racial ship, a lot of times the ship will actually have a bonus to the kind of what they're good at. So you can see on the Vigil, it has a 7.5% bonus to target painting and a 10% bonus to target painter range. And if you looked at the different ships that we handed out, each of them would have a frigate bonus based on that. So, the frigate skills are really short trains, so getting them to 4 should be no issue. And you'll want to get 1 frigate skill to 5 for interceptors later. So then if you are still in EWAR, that 5 would help you be more effective. So you can see the skills on slide 9, electronic warfare signal dispersion for ECM, weapon disruption, weapon destabilization for weapon disruption, sensor linking, signal suppression for remote sensor dampening. And each one of these kind of affects the cap usage in Tech 2, like one of the skills, and the other is the EWAR strength, which is kind of the chances of it applying, at least for EWAR, for ECM. Let's look at signature focusing since we're on the vigil here. They're all under electronic systems. So the signature focusing increases the bonus to the target painter module's signature radius multiplier. So that would make you even more effective, making it easier to lock the enemies. For the countering EWAR effects, this is if you are the person, or if you're going to fit a ship. This is slide 10. You can fit a sensor booster or a remote sensor booster to help somebody out. And you can train your sensor compensation skills. And if you're going to fly logistics, I definitely suggest that, because particularly ECM is going to be targeted on the logistics very, very often. So you see the different things for countering EWAR, like tracking computer and tracking enhancer for weapon disruption, and the missile guidance computer and missile guidance enhancer for the other type. For remote sensor dampening, you can just use the sensor booster again. For target painting, there is no counter, and that's one of the reasons why it's so good to have at least a couple of vigils in fleet. For starting fits for new bros, we have doctrine fits for the EWAR. You can look in the fitting window, which is Alt F, and if you click over to make sure that corporation fittings is selected on the wrench, you can see that we've got the vigil there, and I think we even have a T2 version. I'm on my Dojo tune, so I don't have the Brave Newbies fits there. There we go. Connor linked it in fleet. So this is T2, and that'd make you even more effective. And then each one of the fits at least come with like 1 drone. A lot of times it's not that important to use it, but so like if you can't use the drones, don't worry about that. Just go ahead and fly the ship and ignore the drone. All right, so before we go out and practice this, just remember the EWAR ships are really fragile, and but you have great locking speed and locking range and optimal and fall off range. So your main advantage for staying alive is staying really, really far off, and then as soon as you get targeted, to warp away. So we're gonna practice that. You're not gonna want to warp with the wing. You want to warp to your optimals. So if the FC starts warping around a small battlefield, and you can even exempt yourself from warp to make sure that you're always staying far away. You don't want to get landed. You don't even want to be at zero because someone might with the fleet, because then you'll be in range, the same range as the rest of the fleet, and someone might decide to just shoot you because you're an easy kill. So interceptors will often try to chase you down. So that's kind of like the enemy tackle. For targets, we'll talk about different target preference, and or you can ask the FC who to shoot. So what we're going to do is we're going to practice warping, and it's best practice to stay aligned to something so you can warp off immediately as soon as you're targeted. You always want to, if you can, keep your micro warp drive on, or at least just keep moving. You don't want to be at zero. A lot of these are not cap stable, particularly if you don't have great skills. So you have to keep that in mind when you might not be able to have your micro warp drive on while you have the target paints on. But as you get better skills, that'll improve. The last thing, so you're going to spread out and kind of be burning tacticals. Like if the FC is waiting for a fleet, then you can spread out. He might ask you to starburst and burn off like 200 kilometers and start making tacticals, which is you hit Control B for bookmarks. And you want to just keep doing that. Just make bookmarks all the time. When you see wrecks, you can bookmark those. If you see corpses, you can right click and save location, and then there's a bookmark that you can warp to. So you want to have your overview set up so you can see more than just the enemies, so you have things to warp to. So we'll practice that in a moment. So EWAR does have like a higher skill potential than just like you can get really, really good at EWAR as opposed to the DPS ships. Like once you have the skills to use the DPS ships and you understand following fleet commands, you're not making as much independent decisions. So EWAR is really something that you can get very good at, and there are 2T versions of the EWAR if you like the salt mining. EWAR drones, they do very similar to all the things we just talked about. The ones that are most popularly used are the ECM drones, and those are best used to kind of get your. Sometimes you'll be asked to jam out the enemy logistics, the healers, but they're also good to use to get away if someone's got you warp scrambled.
Also note that the balance of the drones is horrible, so pretty much only the ECM drones are worthwhile, because the rest have stacking penalties between each drone. So you pretty much never ever use anything else, but ECM drones are neat.
Yeah. So does anyone have any questions or came on late and doesn't have a ship so that we can go off and shoot each other? Connor saying, are you asking if it's better to use multi-spec for fighters? I haven't done much EWAR against fighters myself.
Usually it's because you don't know necessarily what you're against, and there's a lot of them out. So multi is pretty good for example, blopsing or whatever, where you don't know what the target is, and they have fighters all over the place. You want to specialize the gems if you know specifically that there's like a great target.
All right, so let's take out the Griffin first here. So everybody go ahead and undock if you're ready. If anyone's not ready or needs a ship, let me know. If you're watching the video, yes, I know some of my modules are offline. So I don't have the signal distortion amplifiers, which would make me even more effective. So that, yeah, gives them greater reach and makes them more effective. So you might not get jammed by Jinx Dojo. So has everyone had Fleet 101? All right. If you haven't had Fleet 101, basically, right now I'm acting as the FC, and so you're trying to follow my commands, and I'm going to broadcast things, the broadcast window. Hit the fleet finder, what you got in the fleet, so you should know how to do that. It's the chevrons on the left. Go ahead and pull up your history tab, which is the second tab in the fleet window. And what you want to do is watch for my broadcast. So this is Fleet 101 brief. So we're going to go over here and I'm going to broadcast to here. So go ahead and align to the Brave Dojo Blood Moon. Align, align, align. And so what this will do is make us all warp at once if we are all aligned. Look at that, beautiful. So this is, it's good for us all to align because then we all warp at the same time. So why did we come here? One, because this is the Dojo Moon and I got it built, so I like to show it off. Two is we have a cool little course over here that we built for some birthday games. So what I want you to do is go ahead and warp to one of the mobile depots up above. I'm going to be in the middle here. So just pick one around me. All right, so we're gonna pretend like this is where I am at, the half court, the mobile depot. Pretend that's the gate and that we have all set up around the gate. You guys have burned off. The FC says hold here, they're gonna jump into us. So what you're gonna want to do is you want to get within your optimals of when the fleet's gonna come in. So if you're like you're 200 off right now, you can't. So scroll over your ECM and go ahead and look at what your optimal range is. Mine is only 31. If it's a fleet that has a lot of range, you can even stay a little bit outside of it, but you're going to be most effective at your optimal range. So go ahead and be at your optimals around me and kind of set an orbit there. Use your micro warp drive to get at your optimals. I just turned my tactical overlay on. So the tactical overlay is a good way to keep track of how things are going, and you can see velocity vectors, which is good to see how the combat is. It's kind of hard to get used to having it on the screen, but it gives you a lot more situational awareness. So the tactical overlay is the second button just right below your cargo next to your capacitor. So you should have your Marco warp drive on. So what you're going to do is once you're up to orbital, your optimal, you can go ahead and lock me, Jinx. Put me on your watch list first, though. Of course, you can't do this with an enemy, but select me in chat, fleet, add to watch list. I'll show it on somebody else here. So now it'll be easier for you to target me. So because we're all in fleet, you can see I'm getting purple boxed here. And normally this would be getting yellow boxed. So what you're going to want to do when you're just once you've yellow boxed me, if I could hit you, I'm going to go ahead and try to target you back. And to make sure that once you get targeted back, you're at risk. What you want to do once you're your optimals and you're going to lock somebody up and turn on your jams, you want to align to something that you can get away to really quickly. So everybody go ahead and align to the Athenor. And I'll broadcast it. So align to the Athenor, and then go ahead and shoot me. And if I lock you up, I want you to warp off. Oh, I'm not going to be able to lock off because you already got a jam. So I'm going to call out names. So Faye, why don't you go ahead and warp off? I'm locking you up. If you have it, you want to turn your micro warp drive off, and you'll be able to warp off faster. Okay, Charlie, I'm locking you up. Hiromoto, I'm locking you up. Fog, I'm locking you up. And then once you warp off, immediately warp back in at your optimal. So pick something like the mobile depot, or as you're flying around, you should be hitting Control B and making more and more bookmarks that you can warp back to. So as soon as you've locked me up, Doku or Yoji, are you guys cycling your jams, Sponge? So Yoji, go ahead and warp off. So Callum, Sponge, warp off. Okay, so you see, and as soon as you get back in, you want to pick something else and align to something else. Don't always come back at the exact same point, and be making bookmarks. So Hiromoto, you should be making bookmarks as you fly there. And if there's things on field that you can use to bookmark, like the mobile depots, that's probably unlikely in the field. But if there's wrecks or corpse or even cargo containers, you yourself, sometimes you can eject your drone or eject other things. If you, I mean, I guess if you're there, you can hit Control B. But if you see other things to warp to, or even your friends, you can warp to them. So the other thing is you can align to fleet members. So if you have a tackle bro, you can so Yoji, you could align over to Sponge right now, and Sponge could align to you, and you could go ahead and warp off. So it's always.
I would like to interrupt for one moment there. There's one thing I don't like to use, aligning to fleet members, because if they need to warp off for any second, it's not good to have your guarantee on someone who might not be there. So that's the only thing I don't use. I don't tend to.
That's true.
I tend to like hop around fleet members and save their positions as bookmarks. That's a good idea, but live just approaching someone can be tricky because it might be gone the moment you need it the most.
Yeah. So, but this kind of, if you stay on grid, if you're yellow boxed, and particularly if you're red boxed, you're probably going to die. You just have very, very little tank. So like scrolling over here, I have less than 1,000 total EHP. So I'm just going to melt if anyone shoots at me. Does anyone have any questions on making bookmarks, warping in and out? Okay, let's go try this on the gate over at GE tag. I mean, the V3 gate. So the V3 gate, and we're deployed right now, but V3 gate is a great place to get practice on this, because I broadcasted there. Because there's lots of times we have lots of tacticals, so the bookmarking part is already done for you. And there's a lot of enemies that usually come through there. So right now, until we're deployed for another few weeks, there might not be as much action. So go ahead and warp. Actually, I'll just warp the fleet. We'll warp at 30. Bookmarks is kind of personal preference. Some people just name every bookmark exactly the same, just tack, or others. It's great to have bookmarks in every system. It's more of an issue when you have too many. But like particularly in catch space, there's almost no way to have too many bookmarks, because we're going to probably fight on those gates again. There's a great example here. So everybody in your combat window, I want you to go ahead and click on ISA 1's frozen corpse. Let me see if can I broadcast that? Yeah. See, everybody see that frozen corpse? This is a cool little trick. So you can right click and you can save location. So scroll down and save location. And now that we save there, we have a tactical. So if you warp away, which Dojo does not have all the gate tacticals, so somebody warp up to a high tactical here. All right, thank you, Hiramoto. So I'm going to warp up to Hiramoto. So once you've saved, did everybody figure out how to save the corpse bookmark, which is something I imagined I would say as part of a class. So now, and the thing is other people can save that same tack. So if you warped straight there, you could end up um, dead. Like an interceptor could warp to you. So what you want to do is hopefully we'll pretend like the gate is so it's 100. Anyway, you can warp at range to any bookmarks, particularly ones that you make uh, like the corpse, because that way someone can't warp exactly to you. So I'm going to warp at 50. And what you want to do is look at the fleet and warp around the fleet and try to warp in straight at your optimal. So like Thalashar here is an Atron. I warped in at 27 kilometers at him. I'm going to lock him up. He's not in the class. And see, I could apply EWAR to him right now. And then I would want to be aligned to something, which I didn't do. So you can, if you have nothing else in system, you can always align to the sun. But then it'll be longer for you to warp off and come back. But that's a better option than just dying outright. All right, so in terms of target calling, if you're in EWAR, the logistics, the healer, and I hate saying this because that's what I usually fly, they're a good choice to jam out, particularly basilisks, which have a cap chain. So they are dependent on providing capacitor to each other to be stable. And if you jam one out, if you're in your Griffin and you jam one out, then they can no longer do that, and the cap chain breaks and they have to readjust, which can be difficult, particularly in the heat of battle. You might not even want to do it when the battle's starting because it might be easy to readjust, but in the midst of it, if you get a good warp in and can jam out, which is blue jams for Caldari, if you can jam them out, then they're going to be sad and they're going to have to make a lot of adjustments while a lot of other things are going on. If you're in a vigil, again, you want to be, you're going to want to pick the target broadcasts, which are going to be something like this. So you see I put Namo there. That is the primary for the FC, and he might broadcast a couple things, and so that's a secondary. So if there's more than one vigil, you might split it between the one and two. But if you're in tracking disruption and Mollis, then if it looks like you can do things like if the healers are pretty far away from the fleet, if you target damp them, then they won't be able to heal everybody in the fleet. Or if you do scan resolution, they won't be able to lock the people that need healing. Davidson, you got any other comments on who to pick as a target?
Not really. As I mentioned earlier with the EVAR, how you have like the two sides of it. So you either help your own fleet, so you usually want to help them apply, which is pretty much the primary. And if you're the other side of EVAR, where you, instead of helping your fleet, you're making the enemy less effective, you want to just have a look at what's on grid and what do you have as EVAR and who is like the most important target, like who can you disrupt the most, which is usually, as you mentioned, Basilisk is a very great target for ECM and stuff.
Does anyone have any questions here? So I'm going to stay on grid. Why don't you guys practice applying to me and then warping off around the grid just a little bit more. I can grab a tower and try to kill you guys if you want, though against griffins, that's going to be a little bit difficult. at least if everyone's trying to jam me at once. So, um, has everyone been jammed out before and seen what that does?
Nope.
Who said no? X up and fleet.
Sponge.
So, sponge is primary. So sponge, try to lock me if they give you time. If you had me locked or anyone else locked, and someone hits you, then you're gonna go ahead and you're in your Mollis now. Perfect. So go ahead and lock me up and damp me. Here, Moto, give him a second to damp me here. Oh, he's too far off. There you go. So go ahead and target me and then damp me. Okay, so I'm damped. So then, Fog, can you go ahead and try to jam out Sponge? So he's on Mollis, so the teal jams, the green jams are going to be the most effective against him. So here see, I just got jammed again. You can always scroll over and see who's got you jammed. This is good if you're jammed and you need help killing the Griffin or whatever. You can scroll over and the name pops up, and on comms or in fleet chat, you can say this person has me jammed. So go ahead and jam out this guy here. Sponge is primary. So one thing you can do on the Griffins is it can be pretty tough on your capacitor to run all of them in sync with each other. So if you wanted to, you can activate the first one and get it to go a quarter around, and then activate the other ones. That's really good to use on the Sancha dreads as well, because it helps keeps the jam off cycle, just in case you get multiple. All right, Sponge, so you're no longer dampening me, so are you jammed out?
Yeah, I am.
Go ahead and try to target anybody.
Nope, can't target anyone.
Yep. So you can see how if we brought this fleet against pretty much anyone, you can see how we might not be able to kill them, but they couldn't kill us, and it would be extremely frustrating for them.
With some exceptions, the major exception to ECM is drones. They still do keep hitting you. So keep that in mind.
But they have to target you first. Well, I guess if they're on
But
aggressive.
if they get the target first, or if they're on aggressive, just keep
Yeah.
in mind that once they start hitting you, they will keep doing that.
Yeah, so you're going to want to make sure that you have all brackets on, that you can see drones approaching you, because that'll you might not even notice like a red boxing when the drones are coming at you, but you can see them flying in your direction and you can warp off. And so you can actually, if you keep on bouncing between tacks and back into optimals, you can keep people, you can kind of kite their drones around. We've got Zaid and a Jackdaw here, and we're going to make him sad. Everybody jam Zaid and Jackdaw.
They have no idea what's going on. I do actually wonder, can all these griffins jam me?
Are you in your Tengu?
Yep, I mean, one of the slip repeat adjustments.
All right.
I originally made this fit actually to play the game of if I land a lock on you, then you're dead. So like practicing the jamming, because I take like ages to lock. So that's why. Well, that's four
Hirmoto,
failed
do you
attempts.
have the ZS overview?
I see 4 failed attempts. I want to see more.
So everybody see when you target Tengu, you see it's blue, so we know the blue jam would be the most effective.
Not much
So-
distinction between the two blues.
Yeah, I know. The magnometric is Galante, so it's a little bit more green. All right, Delashar has me jammed. I mean, he has got me scrammed, so you can also prevent him. See, right now I can't warp off, so here I am in danger. Trying to
like-
warp off.
I see 9 failed attempts. I think it would be pretty much a lottery of this whole army to try to land a gem.
Oh, I got jammed. You're supposed to jam out Delashar. But if you were watching on video, all my targets got dropped, so that's not as fun. All right, if you guys can fly the Mollis, we could go reship and try this with the Mollis, and you can see how your targeting range and mess with the scan resolution scripts and see how that affects the lock speed and targeting range. So again, this is flying EWAR is much more freedom, and the nice thing at flying it instead of tackle is that you can
Interact with the field, I guess.
during the whole major part of the fleet fight, you get to do things. If you're in tackle, it's more of before and after the fleet fight that you're doing things. You can see this has been really hard on my capacitor, so you might not be able to run all the jams and your micro-warp drive at the same time. Cycling the jams could help with that. See, I got capped out there. You can also just pulse your micro-warp drive to get a good speed boost. And once you land a jam, you can also use that as an opportunity to warp off or change targets, because they're gonna be jammed for that amount of time. But if you've got a good target and no one's pestering you, you can just let them keep on cycling.
I guess there's 2 main reasons people hate ECM the most. One of it is that the effect is pretty annoying, that you can't do anything, but the other one is I think the only mechanic of EVAR that's RNG. The other ones is pretty predictable, like you lock 30% shorter range, that's pretty standard, but the ECM, how it's RNG, is very annoying. Not sure if you're aware of how it works, but it kind of compares your ECM strength with the sensor strength, and if it's even in numbers, then you have like a 50%, but if you're like half of it, then it drops heavily, and the less you have, the least chance you have in a percentage. Obviously, that's counting for optimal. There's lots of graphs on EVUNI for the ones that want the math behind it. But how it's RNG, it's very annoying, because if you have a lot of like ECM strength, you might still fail them. And technically, I think everyone in here could land 4 gems on me, and there shouldn't be any way of jamming me. But it could technically happen that like the first gem randomly does it. It's just very low chance. So normally ships are like 10 to 40 sensor strength, like 40 is the high end, I guess. I have 380. So if you compare that to like the ECM strength, it's low chance, but technically it could still happen that the first lock, first gem, and it lands, and that would be like very annoying, because you put like all this effort into countering it, and if RNG says no, then it's RIP.
So if people want, I can bring a tower out, and I won't be able to, if you all do it at the same time, and you can see if you can jam me out before I kill you, or you can damn me another thing. So I'm damned right now, so let's see. Oh, and jammed. Okay, so I'm sensor damped. So, Faye, have you loaded your scripts?
One of each.
Okay. I'm bringing a tower. If I have one. So that's the major part of the class. Does anyone have any particular questions? So again, EWAR is welcome. Even if a ping doesn't specifically say EWAR, you can go ahead and bring it. You can ask the FC if you want, and see. But if it's any kind of strategic operation, you can bring an EWAR.
Jinx, I've got a question.
Yeah.
So how do you talked about aligning out prior to locking a target?
Mm-hmm.
How do you manage aligning out, anchoring on FC or whoever, and maintaining safe distance from enemy fleet all at once?
That's a great question, and the easy answer is, as EWAR, you do not anchor ever.
Okay.
So you are the one exception. So when he says, anchor on me, you should be flying off and trying to stay within your optimals of any enemies, or you can just try to stay like 100K off the fleet, and you might have to reposition if the enemy doesn't come in that direction. But a good thing to do, particularly if we're protecting a structure, is you're going to want to put your micro warp drive on and just start burning those tacticals before any fight happens. Because if they show up later and you've got tacticals all over, you can go ahead and you'll already have those that you can be aligning to and warping around to. Another thing that Faye said is there is something called burst jammers, and that does work on your own friends, so please don't use burst jammers in a fleet setting. They are really effective for certain ships, or if you're lumpy mayo and you want to get on every kill mail possible. Yeah, you don't want to. What Faye's saying is on a toasting fleet or Entosis, that's how he takes off. If you burst jam, you might unlock the Entosis ship, which is kind of worst case scenario. It basically hurts friendlies, so it's bad to use in a fleet setting. All right, I'm bringing my tower out. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording though. I'll leave it on, just in case this is fun.
I think the main annoyance of EVAR is how little attention there is on it outside of these classes. So it's very important to soak up as much information about it as possible and know how your ship handles and everything does. Because if you're flying a random Ferox amongst the 150 DPS fleet, then technically you don't even need to worry about anything as long as your fit is okay and your ship skills aren't too terrible. You could just sit there and FC handles range and ammo and when to shoot and what to shoot for you. But as an EVAR, you want to know how your ship handles because FC usually doesn't even realize that there's EVAR in the fleet or doesn't really care about it. So you need to pay attention when you warp with them to actually get to the position of the fight. But once you actually warp to the fight itself, you need to consider cancelling warp and then going to 100 FC, repositioning, stuff like that. Because no one else will take care of you. You will likely die in a pretty bad way.
All right, I'm gonna broadcast target here, and don't everybody jam me. Go ahead and try to get close to me though. If I blow you up, I'll replace your ship.
Transversal tilt.
So the tower is pretty dangerous for EWAR. So you're gonna have to
Is this
balance.
cheating?
Oops. Is that you,
Yep.
Davidson? Oh, now we have no chance killing them.
No, I will both. I won't do it.
Warp off, Callum. Warp off. Missile's coming. So you need to be off. Yep. So you see how you got out, Callum? If you don't warp off immediately, see now you can come back to the fight. And even though you're probably only gonna be able to take one more hit, but hopefully your shield comes back.
You asked earlier about importance of what to target as EVAR. I would say the first priority is anything that is dangerous to you, because a dead EVAR is not helpful.
So you've just reduced my range. So I'm sensor damaged, so I can't even target you right now. 44 kilometers. So my range is actually 82 kilometers. But now, as long as you stay without 44 kilometers, which sponge, now you're too close. Now you're at risk, so you got to warp off. Missiles are on the way. Okay, get off sponge. There you go.
Yeah, got the wrong tack. Wasted time aligning.
Faye, so you got skills. You got me at 100 kilometers, so you're pretty safe there. So you see how you guys, right now you're aligned and you're coming towards me. You want to align kind of at an angle so that you're not coming in. Because like Doku, even though I'm damped, I might be able to get you here in a second. I got just double damped. So you want to pick your line so that you're not closing the distance. You want to just maintain that distance. Charlie, you're coming in pretty hot on me. You got me jammed, but as soon as my jam comes up, I'm going to be able to get you. Oh, you landed another jam. I can't make you pay. So Charlie, you're going to want to be much farther than that. What's your optimal? Yeah. So if you train the skills, you'd be able to get farther in 36. But in a ship like a Tower War, I could have a range of 82. So in a major Tower War fleet, there'd be 20 of us, and you'd be toast. Everybody go ahead and put your optimal range and then your max range. So max range, you can hit, but then there's a fall off to the effectiveness. All right, Sponge, got to get out. Griffin, Charlie. So Fog, you're still closing distance with me. You're gonna want to make sure that you're aligned in a way that you want to maintain that max distance. Doku, you're coming right at me too. Try not to approach the, if you're gonna have to approach to get within your range, try to approach at an angle, so select to the side of me. And that way, and we might actually get a Tusker fleet here in a second. You can jam out this guy if you want. Oh, I can't broadcast him on this character. Nice job, Fock. And where there's one Tusker, there's probably another one. There you go, hero. Did anyone not get a run at the tower and wants to try? All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording here.